Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the Keloland area, and best of all, we bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about the trending stories that they've created. So you get a behind-the-scenes look at the storytelling aspects, the visuals, or the experiences that go behind creating the stories you see every day on our newscasts and online at keloland.com. To start off today, we're going to be talking about a recap of severe weather that we saw over the weekend. And our meteorologist, Adam Root, has a really good in-depth look at what we saw across Keloland.
The last week or so in the weather department has been pretty active at times, and Sunday was no exception. So let's take a look back at the severe weather that rolled through several parts of Keloland. What started as showers and storms in northern South Dakota eventually turned into a broken line of storms that stretched down south of Oneida. One cell eventually emerged along Highway 14 near Highmore and began to organize and move southeastward. Damaging winds and hail were reported in Gerald and Sanborn counties, including the Woonsocket and Lane areas, where 70 to 80 mile per hour gusts were observed. The storm did eventually dissipate in a line that crossed Sioux Falls. At about 5 p.m. Central Time, a new cell formed along the Jackson-Millette County line. This storm intensified quickly in a favorable atmosphere and slowly pushed southeastward, spawning a tornado near Parmalee as it moved into Todd County. It eventually caught up to and merged with a cell to its south and intensified even further, dropping tennis ball-sized hail near St. Francis and grapefruit-sized hail in Rosebud. This storm would maintain its strength and spawn a few more tornado warnings with radar-indicated rotation before pushing into Cherry County, moving directly through Valentine in the process and producing gusts of 80 miles per hour and a tornado near town. Now, any cleanup efforts that are going to be underway will need to keep the weather in mind for a little while longer. Between heat, humidity, and additional opportunities for scattered thunderstorms, the weather won't be completely cooperative for a little while yet.
And that was Adam Rutt reporting. And as he was mentioning there, Woonsocket. That was a story that we covered yesterday with our reporter, Tom Hansen, as he went out on the scene, even during that extreme heat, watching people, city, county, volunteer crews go ahead and clean up all of that storm damage that it was around. Up next on Inside the Newsroom, we're going to take a look at that damage that took place and that cleanup process as Tom explains exactly what he saw out there in Woonsocket. So stay with us. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. City, county, and even volunteer crews were very busy yesterday in the heat as they were cleaning up storm damage in Woonsocket. Tom Hansen takes us there as we see the storm damage.
Hundreds of tree branches litter the streets and yards in Woonsocket. Crews were hard at work this morning clearing blocked roads. The winds uprooted several large trees and tipped them over. We all know it takes a lot of force to bend a street sign like this one. Many homes lost power last night. It was restored to about 90% of the town by early morning. City Council member Joel Roussel and other city and county leaders are organizing the cleanup. He says the storm hit hard and fast.
Rain came first, then it was hail, and then lots of heavy wind and lots of washing rain.
Roussel says 3 businesses took the brunt of the damage in the center of town. This car is covered in insulation that came from D&L Service and Tires building, which lost its roof.
There were 2 people inside this building when the storm hit. They were on one side of the building, the roof started to come off, so they ran to the other side of the building, then the roof started coming off there. They hid under a metal desk to survive.
Steve Damon owned the building for 34 years.
I couldn't even see 5 feet out front of the door. I was watching it, and then all of a sudden everything started going, and I said, well, better get in a different location. Couldn't go outside. It was bad out there.
Damon says he plans to rebuild. Talk to people in town, and you get the feeling they aren't going to look back, just ahead.
It'll be a different town when we're done cleaning up, but we'll regrow, we'll rebuild as we can be, and we'll be just as strong as we were yesterday.
Although the damage is pretty evident right here in this section of Woonsocket, the good news is no homes were seriously damaged and no one was hurt.
Tom Hansen joins us now at the digital desk to talk about this insanely impactful story, Tom. The interviewees that you were able to get and the stories that you were able to hear is insane, something that I hope I never experienced in my life, but they were luckily unharmed, even though, you know, that building was damaged. Like that interview was just very powerful to me. I just want to start by asking, did you know who you were going to talk to when you went out to Woonsocket yesterday?
Absolutely not.
What was your
No.
experience like? I mean, as you were looking at everything in Woonsocket, I mean, it was completely devastating. And then finding people too. What was that all like for you? How did you find yourself being a part of the story?
Well, I think, when you're coming into a town that has suffered some damage, you're always just a little nervous. How are people going to be, are they, because if your home is destroyed, that's not a good place to be. Luckily, no homes were destroyed. And then Steve, the guy we talked to who owns the business there, his attitude was like just amazing.
Yeah, he was smiling.
He was smiling. He was,
interview.
it is what it is.
Uh-huh.
And I got that from just about everybody in Woonsocket. I love the people there. They're just so cool. They were just like, well, it happened. So now we have to move forward and we're going to just take care of things.
And they just were cleaning up during a very hot day because it just had to happen. But you were seeing people clean up the tree branches, the building parts. I mean, tell me your own reaction as you saw all of this.
As we come into town, we're seeing a few branches and then more branches down. And then you're seeing like a little bit of debris. And then we turned a corner and we got into the center of town and then there's heavy equipment moving, big tree branches and trunks. And you see a bunch of people just all working together. And it was just like, oh, wow, this did some damage.
Well, even that stop sign too,
the stop
is
sign,
crooked.
Wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We all know how much force it takes to bend one of those. Otherwise, they'd be bent all over the state of South Dakota. You don't see bent signs like that very often. So, the winds that came through there were pretty darn powerful.
And I have to ask, what did you find most impactful from the people that you talked to? And then why did you include those bits in your story?
I think it had to do with first of all, when we got into town, I just went right to City Hall. Because I knew they could tell me where the damage was. And I was right. Joel, the city council member, knew exactly where the worst damage was and said, go here, take a look at there. And he told me the story about the two guys hiding under the metal workbench.
Insane.
And to ride out this storm as their roof is being peeled away. So that was the first step. And then I just got over there and started talking to people and said, yeah, there's Steve, the owner. So I started going to talk to Steve, and he smiled, and I went, oh, well, this is going to be good.
It'd be good to talk to.
You just lost your building, and you're smiling. And I thought, wow, what a great attitude to have.
And one of the bits that you ended on was, we just have to clean up, and then we'll keep going. We'll be just as strong as before. What do you hope people take away from your story as they were watching it?
What you want to do is just capture whatever is really happening. And what was happening was these people were all getting together, working together, and trying to make their community whole again. Mm-hmm. One of the things we didn't see, and we could go back today and do another story, all the people behind the scenes. There were people getting water ready, sandwiches, all to feed these workers. All this stuff is going on, I'm in City Hall and they're all sitting around a table and they're all making phone calls. And, hey, do you have a pallet of water you can bring in? Hey, can you go over and grab some sandwiches and get them to the workers out there? All that kind of stuff is going on behind the scenes. So
wow.
I love Woonsocket, just a really cool community. I grew up in Mitchell and I actually lived in Woonsocket when I was 2. I don't remember it. But my sister, I have an older sister she went to kindergarten in Woonsocket. So
little familial bond right there.
Little connection, I guess, to Woonsocket.
Wow, how special. And Tom, what story are you working on today?
Today, a couple of gentlemen are filing a lawsuit against a Sioux Falls restaurant claiming discrimination. So we're going to see if we can't track that down, talk to these guys.
Easy as that. Tom, thank you so much for joining me here at the Digital Desk. And stick around, viewers. We're talking about prison impact. That's going to be discussed at a Sioux Falls forum today. A little look into what kind of feedback one task force member is looking for when we come back after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. You may be seeing it on our website, but an event in Sioux Falls today will look at the impacts of having a prison in Sioux Falls. Kelly Vogt has a preview on this forum as she spoke to one task force member.
The penitentiary in Sioux Falls dates back to the late 1800s. Sioux Falls is slated to remain home to a men's prison after other locations in the state were eliminated.
It became pretty obvious that nobody else wanted this prison. And with Sioux Falls already has a prison, so expanding it kind of seemed like a more natural step, if you will.
While task force member and state representative Greg Jamieson supports building a new prison in Sioux Falls, he acknowledges there are challenges. That's why he's organized a forum for Tuesday morning.
The very first question is to the mayor and to the police chief. What impacts have you felt in our community because of having the prison here?
Jamieson hopes the feedback will be considered when lawmakers gather for a special session in September.
Inevitably, you could think of it, the prison is here. It has been here before we were even a state. It's been here, or a city. It's just going to be expanded. So now let's just be responsible about it and think about how can we do this best.
The Safer Sioux Falls Forum will be held in the Belbis Theater at the Washington Pavilion. The public will also be allowed to weigh in.
I want to make this a transparent process. The public has a voice in all of this. They have concerns about their own safety.
Kelly Vogt is joining us now at the digital desk to talk more about this. Kelly, I wanted to start by asking, was there anything that Jamieson told you during this interview that kind of stood out to you?
Well, he talked about how many communities in South Dakota have expressed disinterest in having a prison in their community. And he talked about how even though Sioux Falls has had one for a long time and it's looking like Sioux Falls is going to continue to be the home of a prison, that he wanted people in Sioux Falls to have that same opportunity to talk about any concerns they might have. That doesn't mean the prison's not going to be built here, but give us your feedback and, your concerns and your thoughts, and we'll use that to make sure we are doing this in the best way.
Because this all will be presented to lawmakers later in September. What did Jamieson tell you that made it so important to him to have community input?
Well, I think it goes back to this process that we've seen throughout the task force and, trying to pick a location for a prison, really giving Sioux Falls residents the option to speak up as well.
Mm-hmm. And then while people are looking at your story as we go into today for the forum, what's the biggest impact that you hope viewers take away?
Well, that, they know that they have an option to weigh in on this if they want to.
Easy as that. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me at the digital desk. And stick around, viewers, because up next, we're looking back at Rock the Country Music Festival, that 2-day event, and we're seeing how organizers are reflecting on it. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Organizers are calling the latest outdoor music festival in Sioux Falls a total success. Carly Phillips tells us what they believe went so well.
Rock the Country organizers say it was possibly the largest paid music festival Sioux Falls has ever experienced.
We had access to 30,000 people out there between the both days. It was pretty interesting sight.
After nearly a year and a half of planning, Pepper Entertainment says it felt well prepared for the Rock the Country Music Festival. Organizers say the 2-day event was a great opportunity for their company and Sioux Falls businesses.
The impact economically, the hotels were all sold out within almost 50 miles, I was told. Restaurants, nightlife. I talked to friends that own businesses in that space. They said, man, we had so many people coming in.
Still, organizers acknowledge there's room for improvement, and they're already reviewing feedback to do just that.
A lot of social media chatter was, and not necessarily bad, right? Just people commenting on hey, where's the shuttle pickups, and people jumping in and saying, oh, you can get it here, and here's how it worked.
But now that the festival is over comes the process of cleaning up and preparing for the next event here at the fairgrounds.
They're bringing in a pretty big crew, and the first crew is just piling up big stuff, and then there's another crew coming in to do the finer detailing and get it all cleaned up.
And with this year's festival in the books, officials say they're already eyeing dates for next year.
For next year is so exciting. Carly Phillips is joining us now at the digital desk. Carly, I have to start by asking, what did you hear from Pepper Entertainment? Did they tease anything about another Rock the Country coming back for another year?
Well, I think that's something they definitely have their eyes on. They didn't say specifically, but just kind of working to see if maybe that's a possibility in the future.
Because they're looking at feedback right now about the music festival that already happened. And what did you hear from Pepper Entertainment that made them sound like they want this feedback and they're encouraging people to reach out? What did you hear from them?
I think they talked a lot about just hearing people, commenting on social media, like he mentioned, just looking for ways that they can improve, because obviously this was the first time this has been here in Sioux Falls. So just, getting, I guess, reaction from people who are actually at the event so that they can improve it.
And I want to hear from you. What was your reaction, or what did you think about as you were seeing all of the crews clean up the fairgrounds over there?
There was a lot to clean up, I'm sure. But just with any event that big, there's going to be a big cleanup process. So it looked like it was going well. And Scott Wick, who we heard from, said that they had lots of people there to help, and they were actually planning to have it all done by yesterday. So hopefully that was the case and they beat the heat. But
that's a good point, actually. It's so hot outside now. And as viewers were watching your story, what do you hope is the main takeaway that they get from your story?
I hope that they know that they can leave feedback with Pepper Entertainment and maybe the fairgrounds if they were there. I think that was really the big thing, is that organizers want to know what they can do better if there are things, and that people can reach out that way.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the Rock the Country, or creating the story, or even seeing what was going on at the fairgrounds during cleanup?
I think we covered it pretty good, and it sounds like the organizers are happy with the turnout.
And they can submit their feedback. And if you're wondering how you could submit your own feedback to Pepper Entertainment about Rock the Country, just go ahead and check out Carly's story. It's on her website right now. Just scan that QR code that you see on your screen. And that wraps up our time for Inside the Newsroom today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have more Inside the Newsroom tomorrow at 1 o'clock, only here on KELOLAND Plus. So keep your app, because we want to see you here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, have a great day, everyone.